I'm Sean, and you're listening to The 3-Month Vacation. There's an email that we've run for close to 17 years. It's the sales email for the article writing course. And it kind of talks about article writing. However, almost the entire email is about the idea of having a fairy godmother. It's about how I struggled so much with writing that when I got going, a single article would take 2 days. And then when I got to the end of the article, I wasn't sure it was good. I didn't want to learn to write. I just wanted a fairy godmother. Do you feel like you need a fairy godmother too? What you're experiencing almost at the start of the email that we send, is the same thing that you experience when you walk into a movie theater. You're locked into that movie, and it's running on the screen. The lights go out, the film comes on, and then you're taken to a different space and different time. You don't and often can't focus on the world outside. Storytelling does the same job, except there's no theater and you have the full volume of distraction. Somehow, when you talk about a story or give an account of something, you get the audience's attention, even under trying conditions. And it doesn't take much to become a storyteller either. The first part of the storytelling process is to do what movies do. Movies move you to a different space and time. Hence, if I'm standing on stage and talking about the brain audit, it is pointless to talk about the brain audit. It is boring to say, oh, there's this book and it's called The Brain Audit and blah, 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 blah. The audience isn't bored, but they're in their world. They've just been checking their emails. They're likely to be on social media, or they've just been in the middle of some conversation and then they've sat down to listen to you. When you give them something boring, they are still locked into the world that they were in. The space and the time, that hasn't changed at all. So you have to move them into a different world. And this is what I do. When presenting the brain audit, I lift a chair and place it on the stage. Instant curiosity sets in. And my job is to unfold that story so that it's not just some stunt, but something that fits in entirely with the brain audit. I say to the audience, I'm going to sit in the chair and stand up. Sit in the chair, stand up. Sit in the chair, stand up. And true to my promise, I sit, stand, and repeat that action. In about 10 seconds, the audience is locked into what comes next. What comes next is one of the main aspects of storytelling. What happens when Cinderella goes through all of those problems? What happens when her godmother appears? What happens to Sean from 2001 when he wants to write an article and the fairy godmother doesn't show up? What happens to those articles? What happens next is what people are looking for. Once you've ignited that world that they have to step into, now they want to know what happens next. What happens next with the chair in the presentation? I'll tell you what happens next. I explain to the audience that the chair doesn't fall apart. I can sit on it, stand on it, dance on it, and it doesn't let me down. I never test the chair before I sit on it. Even if I were seriously overweight, I wouldn't go around trying chairs before seating myself. So why does the chair work so well? That's what I ask the audience. The answer is obvious, isn't it? The chair is built on science. It has clear parameters, and you must consider them when creating a chair's mold. You can have any color, even bizarre shapes, but the chair cannot fall apart. The structure is what causes the chair to perform consistently, time after time. I let the audience absorb this information, and then I go on. When we look at our marketing, we don't see that structure. We don't know exactly what we're supposed to say, and when someone asks us what we do, we don't know exactly what we should be saying. We don't know how to promote our business, and we don't even know if we're doing the right thing. We hope that we're doing something right. We hope our fortunes will change. However, what we're lacking is a structure or a template. And that is what the brain audit is all about. I tell the audience that the information in the book isn't something necessarily new. It's probably as old as sales and marketing has existed. However, it is helpful because it shows you exactly why clients buy and why they don't. It shows you why clients hesitate and when they hesitate. At this point, imagine you're sitting in the audience and you have been transported from the chair sequence and then thrown into another story. So we started with the chair story, then we went to the other story. The story where you're just throwing everything at the wall and hoping that something sticks. Standing on the stage in front of you is someone saying they will give you a template. Do you want a template? Of course you do. Even if you're a pro at selling, you still want to know what the structure is all about. And if you're just like everybody else who's been burned many times and you don't want to hustle, you don't want to be those kind of people who are always in your face, always trying to sell you something, always trying to hustle. Well, if you don't want to be that kind of person, then you long for that structure. You long for something that will enable you to understand why the customer is thinking the way they are, why they're hesitating, when they're hesitating. So now there's a person there and they've told you a story, they've told you a second story, and you don't realize that stories are being told, but the message is clear as day, and you want that template. You definitely want to solve your problem. And it's important to notice that the audience was locked in the whole time. They were in your world the whole time. And that's because you started with a story. Now, a story doesn't always need to be told. Sometimes a name is enough. Let's take two products from Psychotactics. One is called Black Belt Presentation, and the second is called Dartboard Pricing. Which one seems to be more attractive? People pick the pricing one because what's interesting about a random generic term like black belt? It's interesting to note that before we know what's in the course, what's in the book, we're already demonstrating a bias between one product and the other. When you expand that term black belt presentation, it still feels like a struggle. Now, I wrote that book, so I can tell you it's a fantastic product for creating your webinar and presentation, but it lacks the story aspect in the title. The title alone is letting that product down. Dartboard Pricing, on the other hand, talks about how to set your prices. And it suggests that you need a dartboard and you need some darts. Now, we know that pricing is quite scientific, but trying to set up a dartboard and throwing darts at it, that unusual concept gets you into a different world. It gets your curiosity going. You're wondering, how do I get to that world and figure out what's with this product or what's with this concept or how do I apply it to my business? And that's the key to storytelling. It's creating this different world. One product, Black Belt Presentation, it doesn't increase your brain activity that much. The other one, it pushes you in a different space and different time. The crux of storytelling is about another space and another time. Your audience is hooked. Now it's up to you to get them to what next, and what next. And then you seamlessly move them to your product, to your service, whatever it is that you're selling. And when you get to your product or your service, the audience has already seen it coming. They're smart, whip smart. They've seen 100 or 1,000 other pitches before. They know you're special because you're not boring. Most people are boring. Their pitches are boring. And there is a way out with storytelling. Once you discover it, you realize you can enthrall an audience, take them to a different world. And more importantly, you don't have to write a second email. Just like us, you can run the same email for 17 years in a row, fill up your courses, and never be boring again. So what's the one thing that you can do today? The one thing that you can do today is to understand a little bit more about storytelling. Because it's not just about telling a story, but it's the bridge to your product or your service. And the more you understand that, the more you're able to just tell the stories, and then the audience knows, yep, this is about a product or a service. We're not sitting here for story time. We're not going to bed. We are being woken up. We are being taken to a different world. And learning how to do that is crucial. The problem is that most of the storytelling out there, and I've tried this, so believe me, is just about writing stories for scripts or writing for movies, and it doesn't really fit in with the way you make a presentation. It doesn't fit in with articles. It doesn't fit in with so much stuff that we do as business owners. And learning how to unfold that storytelling to take people in a different world, that is a craft. Now, there is one course that's not until 2024, and I know this is huge pre-sale, but there's nothing till 2024. In between, however, there is a storytelling series on the Psychotactics site, and I suggest that you go there, and it's a good starting point. It enables you to understand how to flow a story and then counterflow a story. Not just go in one direction, but then to pull back, because that's what holds the audience together. It's Goldilocks going into the forest and then running into the wolf. Sorry. Goldilocks doesn't run into any wolf. She runs into the three bears, and there's no drama there. But we'll talk about Red Riding Hood going to the forest and running into the wolf. So that's the counter story. And that's kind of what you want to learn. Even little bits like that really help you. So that brings us to the end of this podcast. What's happening in Psychotactics land? Well, we have the pre-sale course in early December. It's a home study. It shows you how you can sell something so that by the time people come to the sales page, they don't even want to read the sales page. They're already convinced they just want to buy your product or service. This is not some magic trick. It is a system, just like we have a system with dartboard pricing or the brain audit or anything that you've read at Psychotactics. There is a system to it, and that's what pre-sale is all about. So go to psychotactics.com/pre-sale, and yes, you'll get some goodies, and you can look at the goodies and, get the information from it. Or when the course comes along, you can buy the product as well. I'll say bye for now, and I'll see you in 5000 BC. Bye-bye.